You're listening and watching to the Real Anime Podcast. My name is Mohnish, and I'm here as always with my co-host Lewis. And today we will be talking about the Takeshi Kitano film Violent Cop. You can see the big smile on Lewis's face because he's very excited to get into this topic. And first and foremost, before we start, this is kind of on the fly, but a little bit of sad news first, a bit of tribute to the great Chuck Norris, who recently passed away. So just a very quick one, because this film is an action film as well, and I want to just take a small moment to pay a small tribute to a living legend who basically just passed away. And Chuck Norris is just an icon in my eyes, and the things he's done, turning 12 years old before he was 11, amazing. I love the bit where he fought off a anaconda, and then he said after 11 days of excruciating pain, the anaconda finally died. And then there was a bit where he also was in movies with Bruce Lee. He's one of the greatest martial artists and one of the greatest action stars and action icons in cinema history. So just wanted to pay that quick tribute. Lewis, any brief words about Chuck Norris that you love?
R.I.P. to a legend. I love the guy. We grew up with him, watching him. He will be missed for sure. And we from the Real Anime Podcast would like to pay a tribute to the Norris family also.
And now back to the topic at hand. Violent Cop, directed and starring the great Takeshi Kitano as Detective Azuma, who basically is a criminal in himself, but he's got a badge, so we'll let it slide. Aside from that, I want to get out of the way first and say that I did not initially know this was Takeshi Kitano's directorial debut. I sort of picked the film because it looked like, from the trailer's point of view, it looked like a Naked Gun-ish film, and Lewis has been on a bit of a Naked Gun thing. You may check out his Letterboxd for all the detailed reviews on all the Naked Guns, the Leslie Nielsen's versions, the Liam Neeson version, many, many other versions. But we're back here on Violent Cop, and I have to admit, I was kind of pleasantly surprised, but also shockingly surprised at how far away Violent Cop actually is from Naked Gun. Because while Naked Gun is good in what it does, Violent Cop brings a whole different energy to this genre, where I wouldn't say it's strictly comedy for sure, because it's quite a violent film, as the name implies, but Takeshi Kitano is quite a amazing director, considering the fact that this guy was acting, and this was his directorial debut. And from what I understand, it was not exactly a smooth sailing production as well. But the intro to this film is one of the most memorable intros I've seen in a little while, to be honest. Where he literally barges into the house of a high school student and beats a confession out of him while his mother is in the house, and makes him go to the police station in the morning after said beating, when he notices that the high school student actually beat up and abused a homeless man before going home. So his form of justice is quite a reciprocal one. Not necessarily legal, I can guarantee you that. It's definitely not legal, because that's just breaking and entering, assault and battery, and several other laws he broke just to get a confession, a forced confession, in fact. But, justice is justice, and this is why we're here today.
If you're basing it off of the opening scene itself, I was just like, hang on a minute, there's nothing violent about this. Oi! That was my reaction. Then I started to see like, okay. First things first, I saw you are greeted with this old guy, like an old homeless guy, just like minding his own business, and you get a bunch of kids, teenagers, just come out to him and decide to beat him up. But then Azuma did after that. The great Takeshi Kitano himself did literally follow the boy to his house. Did the most smoothest thing. He was just like, good evening. I'm the police. I would like to speak to your son. Then afterwards, he just was like knocks on the door. He thinks it's his mother. Then man just went inside in there and just like decides to teach him a lesson.
He just beats the shit out of him there.
Hey, don't play. I was just like, hey, he's slapping the brother to next week. I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best things about Detective Azuma's character, his unpredictability, right? He's violent, basically a criminal. I'm not even going to say he's a bit too violent, because he's basically a criminal. There's nothing legal about what he does. At the same time, though, he does do it for his idea of the right reason. So I suppose maybe you can think about how that equates in the scale. But
so my first Letterboxd review, I did write it as the Japanese version of Naked Gun. I actually wrote it as that. I thought at first it was like, you had like Leslie Nielsen, sort of like, this is like a Japanese version of Leslie Nielsen and the Naked Gun. Because if you were to compare it side by side for the first 1 hour of the film itself, it was almost like a Naked Gun sort of way, but made in Japan, let's just say. But once you really start to get beyond the 1 hour mark, that's when you start to see like I was also drawing comparisons. Maybe I thought a bit of Rush Hour elements was in there, but obviously you don't have but obviously Azuma himself is not really like a Chris Tucker type, obviously. But it was like drawing elements from like these two films, I would say. But really, when you start to watch more of the film, it starts becoming from comedy all the way to probably like thriller after that. Because you don't know, you expect the unexpected. Like, remember that
Yeah,
scene,
but it's
right?
quite. Sorry, Lewis. I just
Yeah,
wanted
sure.
to break in and add on to your point. Like Lewis was talking about how the tone changes after the hour mark. He's not joking. It really does change after the hour mark. It's quite a jarring. It's like you expect a certain thing that is quite unexpected from just the opening, like Lewis mentions about the violence and how it's used. But once the tone changes for a very dark turn, it almost doesn't let go.
Oh,
And the comedy starts to feel sadistic at that point. You got used to a certain comedic element in the first hour, but like Lewis talks about, after that first hour moves, the comedy starts to become quite sadistic, and then the violence is darker and much more stark and gritty. But like Lewis, but back to you.
yeah, because the first hour you're greeted with Azuma, like this like happy-go-lucky guy. There was this moment where he was with his the rookie Kikachi. Remember the moment when he introduces Shimimase, I'm the new rookie or whatnot to Azuma. Then Azuma just like, okay, then continue to drink his tea. That's what we thought Azuma is, that type of guy. Even that, remember that taxi scene itself, around minute 25, minute 30, around there. Imagine, right? If you're a boss of the company, would you ask your intern to pay for the taxi ride? That's basically like what Azuma did over here. Just ask his rookie to just basically like pay for the taxi ride. Why? Because he probably wasted all his money drinking. That's why he did. So it kind of like sets the tone of what character he is like. But the bit where it changes, like I said, from the minute mark itself, is where you get to see like the bit like, whoa, this is Azuma now. This is like a 360 transformation already. Which relates to like one of the reels that we did for this episode itself, where we talk about like how Japanese cinema is able to blend horror and comedy so seamlessly to the point where it doesn't feel like horror, if you get what I mean. Take America, for example. Their horror, normal family moves into the house, looks at the house. Oh, then there will be a family of four. The kids become kepo a B, see the haunted house. The white family goes like, oh, you don't go there. If it's an Asian family, they'll be like, okay, we're gonna chabot. We're not going there. I mean, that's a horror family. That's a horror story for you.
Yeah, yep. I mean, it's like, to me, right? I really was surprised because this film comes across as a comedy, or a dry comedy anyway, in like the beginning. But to me, the way the tone changes and how it actually works is the most impressive part, because that is a storytelling technique and a grasp of understanding that is so difficult for a lot of filmmakers, professional ones, even to this day, professional ones. Um, like it's like, sort of, when you look at it, Takeshi Kitano is acting. He's got a big cast. He's coordinating all these other things, and still, the guy manages to have some of the most beautiful shots you will see in the cinematography. Like, yes, comedy films are not necessarily known for their beauty. It's not a film where you're never gonna watch The Hangover, and, for example, and be like, oh wow, that was Columbus 2.0. You know what I mean? Like, you're never gonna do that. You're never gonna watch even Rush Hour or any of these other great comedies and be like that. I want to see the cinematography again and again. No, I'm watching Rush Hour for Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. I'm watching um, Naked Gun for Frank Drebin, Leslie Nielsen. I'm watching all the Hangover for Bradley Cooper and all the other fellas. I'm watching those actors. I'm not watching it for the cinematography. But with Violent Cop, there are actually scenes and the way of framing that I was surprised it genuinely was very beautiful. And I was like, there are wide shots of the sea, there's a beautiful hallway shots, there are beautiful frame within frames, and the such intense scenes are shot with such finesse, and the cinematography looks like it's out of a pure crime scene or a beautifully shot thriller. And it actually reminds me of another film I remember that I love, a Japanese film called Cure. It's one of my favorite films, and it's an amazing procedural film by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. And it's one of those kind of films where it's like you can look at the cinematography and it looks very similar. And if I'm drawing comparisons with a comedy-ish film like Violent Cop, that is kind of more violent than comedy now that I think about it, because it really leaves a violent taste in your mouth, I cannot imagine the quality comparison between Hollywood and Japan if a comedy show, if a comedy movie is something I'm thinking about in terms of cinematography. You know what I mean? I've never once in my life thought about cinematography from a comedy film in the Hollywood or American or British side of things. But when it comes to a Japanese one, for some reason, I'm looking at it, there's slow motion la, there's wide shots la, fella don't want to pay the cab la. It all still feels funny, but at the same time, it works. So I'm like, all right, man. Like, I tell you what, I learned a lot. But I did not learn as much about this film as Lewis did, because guess what? He rewatched the film again. So, Lewis, talk to us a bit more about why you decided to rewatch the film in the first place. What about the film did you like so much you wanted to rewatch? Go.
I don't know. I don't know what was in my mind, but I was gonna say the cinematography thing. Another comedy film did good cinematography. You forgot about the film Lost Memories.
Plugging his own movie.
But
I'm so sorry, Takeshi Kitano, if you are watching this. He doesn't, he doesn't mean it.
Sorry, Mr. Kitano.
But Luis, why? Actually, you have a unique angle here that I like, because I think you're the one who rewatches. You watch this film before the podcast again, so you've seen it twice.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, awesome for you. I'm very, very happy. But I want to know, what exactly about Violent Cop did you like so much that you rewatched the film?
Okay.
Because to be honest with you, that's really interesting to me.
I have to admit, I genuinely did want to watch the film the second time, but the first time I watched it, I was actually out somewhere and I had my laptop and I did not, and then I just like found somewhere to watch it, and then I just like I thought, and the subtitles is a bit clunked up, not gonna lie. Okay, so then I was just like, but I understood the gist of it, but but the reason why I wanted to watch it the second time, I was just like, okay, first of all, when I watched it for the first time, I understood like the action, the comedy, and how the how it changed from comedy to thriller. But let's just say the second time I wanted to watch it because I wanted to understand the story a bit more. Let's just say it's a bit rare for me to like watch a film like back to back within like the span of 24 hours, not gonna lie. But then like I guess like I watched it the second time because I really wanted to understand more of the dialogue, because obviously this film's not in English, of course. So then obviously I wanted to understand the dialogue a bit more, and I just wanted to have a good laugh, let's just say. I just love the film, man. If you check out my Letterboxd review, bruv, I put there 4.5 stars for the first round. Then the second round I put 5 stars after that. Okay, I just love the film.
Like that's, yeah, I mean, obviously, for all of you guys listening now, our Letterboxd links are in the description below for both YouTube and Spotify. So do check out Luis's review of this and also his rewatch. But I also want to say, Luis, like anything specific about why you decided to rewatch? Story, cinematography, acting, dialogue.
It's more or less for the story itself. Okay, I'll admit. Because obviously Japanese is not our native language, so I wanted to watch it again for the story itself, and plus obviously to like jot down like some notes for today's podcast. So let's just say that I wanted to do it more like an in-depth review where I actually jot down the notes and then obviously understand the story more. I just watched it purely for the action. I mean, to be honest with you, if you watch it like how I did with no subtitles, hey, I would say it's so. I mean, okay, I did have subtitles, but sometimes the subtitles showed, sometimes it did not show. So in a way, it's just kind of me doing some guesswork, right? So
To be fair, I just want to interrupt this to just say that the film is made and edited so well that if I turn off the subtitles and watch it, it's still funny as shit.
Oh, I think that's the approach I did. I'm just grateful that when I watched it, the subtitles wasn't working that good.
If nothing else, right? If nothing else, I think that is an even more of a proof that this is a good film, because if you can tell what the film is about, if you're reacting emotionally to the film, whether it's funny, sad, happy, violent, whatever lah, without any of the dialogue, you already know that you got a good film. Because if you're already laughing before the film's even, you understand what they're saying. To be fair to me, to be fair to the film, I think
I think Mohnish, you just answered my question. That I think that's the reason why I wanted to watch the film again. I think that like I kid you not. I kid you not. I think this is my first time in my history of watching films, right? Where okay, yes, I've seen films back to back before in 24 hours, but this is the first time ever. I just really genuinely really wanted to rewatch it again, just for the story's sake itself, because this is the first time ever I watch it with barely any subtitles. Okay, there was some subtitles, but then maybe half the dialogue subtitles were gone. Some of it was there, so it was just like, hey. But I had a fantastic time laughing my butt off at the place itself, and I was just like, I gotta watch it again. I literally gotta watch it again. My favorite scene for me personally would probably be at minute. I even this is the reason why I watched the second film, so I could actually take the minutes down of my favorite personal bits. So I guess if you guys are watching this, I guess we will show you the bit that I'm referring to. So it's exactly at minute 16:27. This is the bit where Azuma is at the hospital, and then you have a couple who's pregnant. The lady is pregnant, of course. Then the guy is over there. He's not taking responsibility. Azuma out of nowhere just kicks the guy for no reason and tells him like to take responsibility for the child, blah 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 blah. And I was just like, bruh. It was just so funny how, and when I watched it for the first time, I was just like, Aku, brother just decided to kick it out of nowhere.
Okay, I'm with you on that one, because to be honest with you, I remember the conversation, and even the guy who was being accused of hitting his not accused, he did hit this girl, like she has a black eye, but his reasoning was the stupidest thing in the world.
Oh yeah,
because it was like, are you? It was like, are you sure she's pregnant? And then the girl is like, of course I'm sure. You are the one who said you wanted to abort the baby. And then after that he goes, are you sure it's mine? I'm like, so now you believe lah she's pregnant. And then after he's like, are you sure it's mine? Of course it's you. Abort it. And it's like, see, I told you. And I'm like, bruh. I kept laughing because, to be honest with you, I'm just like, even the dialogue is hilarious. And I think what Lewis's whole thing is like, hey dude, the film is extremely rewatchable. And even though it came out in 1989, 10 years before both of us were born.
Hey, you just revealed our age. I born in 1959.
That's true. That's true.
Kidding, 99.
Well, I tell you what, we were definitely not born in 98. Sorry, in 89.
Oh well, we're chilling somewhere probably.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this and I'm going like, wow, the fact that this film is super rewatchable is a testament to its story and how well it's really stood the test of time, to be honest with you. Now, I want to just go over briefly about Takeshi Kitano's directorial style, because this was his debut directorial film. This was where he started it off. And he apparently had a lot of arguments with his crew. Yeah, I did a little bit of reading on this, and I watched a couple of behind-the-scenes videos where it was like you could see his producer freaking out because Takeshi Kitano always wanted to lock off shots. He wanted to put them on tripods and keep them still. But then, obviously, there are a lot of shots where you see him in the car or running on the side of the road where he's clearly being shot from a moving vehicle. So it was an odd instance where the cinematography was actually so different. But the interesting thing that I noticed is the cinematography was evolving with the tone and genre of the film. Because for the comedy, it was more of a moving shot, plus it was locked off in the beginning, where you have more tripod shots. Then in the middle, the tripod shots were increased because you wanted to get the compositions. right, of the hallways. You wanted to get those amazing wide shots. And then towards the end, you have more handheld shots, you have more steady cam shots, you have more moving vehicle kinetic movement shots where it's like, oh, this is not just locked off. He's evolving the cinematography, which is such an interesting thing for a director to do because, especially if this is your first film, not many directors, probably no directors, have that kind of self awareness to see that deep into their craft to the point where they're just analyzing even the cinematography's evolution across the story. So I was really impressed with that because it shows that he's not just a comedian, he's a full blown filmmaker and he's a full blown artist. And I think that to me was one of my favorite things about Violent Cop. But anything about the cinematography that stood out to you, Lewis, that you enjoyed?
I just never ever imagined a day that you are able to have good, perfectly framed shots for a comedy film, or after, let's just say, for the first hour, where the cinematography itself, I think, is another reason for you to watch the film again, right? Because he has so many beautiful wide shots for a comedy film, which is quite rare for a comedy film to have a bunch of wide shots, unless if it's just for like the establishing scene. Okay, then that's a different story. But the cinematography itself, like I said, if you watch it without any audio itself, forget about the subtitles, no audio. Some people might think that this film itself on its own is like a perfect cinema, like like a nice cinema film for cinematography, let's just say. And if I told that fella this is a comedy film, they'll probably tell me you are lying. You ain't got no clue what you're talking about, bruv. You must be drinking the Hendrix right now because you ain't got no clue what he's saying, bruv.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I actually did a bit of research on how this film was received in 1989. Like, I'm talking more of the reactions, not really box office, but more of the reactions. And apparently, this film came out and people said it was either too violent or too slow. I tell you one thing, right? Here's the one thing. It was many things for me, but I guarantee you, this film is far from being slow. It's definitely not slow for me. I enjoyed the film from start to finish in that sense. You know, a lot of people were mixed about it, right? But then years later, it was a really favorite film. Like a lot of people see it as the start of the great Takeshi Kitano's style and his films. And he made many more films like Violent Cop. You know, you got Sonatine, you got Fireworks, amazing films. And the guy brought his comedy into every single one, but he was always considered a serious filmmaker because he brought in those serious themes very, very well. And I look at how that a comedian was able to influence Japanese crime dramas, which, by the way, Japanese crime dramas are a prestige genre, a very big genre in Japan, where it's like you have people like uh, Kurosawa with Stray Dogs. People like that were doing crime dramas in Japan, and then here comes along this famous comedian going, "Bro, I got it. Just sit back, relax, and let me cook." And then he goes and makes Violent Cop, and then next thing you know, people are like looking at Violent Cop and going, "Oh, that's where it all started." Well, you know what I mean? And Luis obviously loves this film. He's seen it twice, so Luis, just in conclusion, for a quick recap, because I'm just gonna say this before Luis ends off the podcast, because I'm gonna say you guys should watch Violent Cop, especially now because Violent Cop is seriously a great film. It's You don't regret watching it clearly because Luis watched it twice in 24 hours, and I'm looking at that. I'm saying, yeah, you know what? That clearly that you see it as a good film, and I see it as a great film as well. Both our reviews are on Letterboxd. Takeshi Kitano is a madman. We love him. We probably might do another Takeshi Kitano film since Lewis is such a big fan. I'm sure we're gonna have more. But I'm now gonna pass it over to Lewis to end off the podcast. Firstly, Lewis, just end off the podcast by telling our beloved audience why they should watch Violent Cop.
Okay, look, if you guys follow us on Instagram, you probably probably heard one of our answers of why you should watch the film. But now this is you listening and watching to me talking to you right now. Let me bring the camera closer.
Fourth wall break.
Oh yeah, that's true. So let me tell you one thing, right? if you're really a big fan of like these sort of comedies, like, you know, like these like sort of like police genres or like police comedy films, violent cop is up your alley. For me personally, I like films such as Naked Gun. You guys already know that's like one of my favorite films trilogies of all time. Okay, sorry, including that's the fourth one also. I always forget. But nevertheless, if you're like a fan of like these sort of like unserious like police films where, you know, just like a bunch of police guys just doing their own thing, you know, Violent Cop will be up your alley, because sometimes just like the seriousness of Azuma himself, it's just like a joy to watch, really. Just like, you know, just like him. And the best thing is he doesn't even say lots of words. You know, he just only says like 1 or 2 words and that's it. Literally, I tell you. And just through his actions alone just explains how good of a guy or actor he is. And if you guys are not watching this film, I must say that you better watch this film. You know, grab your friend, grab your boyfriend or girlfriend or your wife or your husband or your mom or dad or your dogs or your cat or your fish. Take them out from the gym right now and ask them to come watch this film, because you won't regret this. If you regret this, you can message me on Instagram or Letterboxd, say like, oh, Lewis, 我跟你讲啊. Hey, sorry, wrong language. Yeah. If you don't like the film, you can come find me, but I'm sure you guys will like the film. Because why? First time I reviewed this film, it was 4.5 stars. But 24 hours later, it was 5 stars. I didn't do a long review after that. I just put a simple 2 sentences, done. Because that's how good a film it was. Because why? Less is more, guys. Go watch it now. And we'll see you next time on the Real Anime Podcast. Bye-bye.